Hello, students. Yesterday we read some of the pages of the Footprint Without Feet chapter. Let's recapitulate what we read. We got to know that two boys got surprised to see the footprints without feet, which were of a scientist named Griffin. He discovered a rare drug and made himself invisible. The landlord disliked him and he tried to eject him. So he came out of the home, set the house on fire, and became invisible. Then he went to in the streets of London. Then he went into a London store to get some food and to get some clothes. He got them, but unluckily he couldn't wake up early in the morning and the assistant arrived, so he had to escape by removing his clothes when the assistant started chasing him. So let's read further in the story. Eager to get away from crowded London, he took a train to village of Epping, where he booked two rooms at a local inn. Inn means hotel. The arrival of a stranger, I think we have read it. Arrival at this time of winter was quite unusual for the landlord, but still Griffin told the lady that he had no desire to talk. So he even told that he didn't want to be disturbed because he wanted to be lonely and isolation. Satisfied with her guest was an eccentric Satisfied that her guest was an eccentric scientist. Eccentric mean kind of mad, and in view of the fact that he had paid her in advance, then why did she tolerate the strange habits and his temper, his anger, because he was paying her in advance. But the stolen money from the shop did not last long. It got finished. So Griffin had to admit that he had to arrange more ready cash. He pretended, he made a show in front of Mrs. Hall that he would receive his check any time. He started making excuses. Shortly, a curious episode occurred in the village. Early in the morning, a clergyman, a priest of the church, and his wife, they were awakened in the morning by noise. It was 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning, and at the clergyman's house there was some noise. Both of them woke up, they went downstairs, and they heard the sound of coins. So they saw that the clergyman's desk was opened. Without making any noise, they took a poker. Poker is a kind of tool with which coal is put into chimney. So he took a poker in his hand and he opened the door. The clergyman opened the door of his study room and he said, "Surrender," to the thief. Then he was surprised that the room appeared to be empty. There was no one. He and his wife looked under the desk, behind the curtains, and even up the chimney, but there was no sign of anybody. Yet the door had been opened and the housekeeping money was missing. Extraordinary affair. It was a strange affair that the clergyman kept saying for the rest of the day, because it was hard to believe that the money had disappeared but the man was not visible. Then another incident happened at Mrs. Hall's inn with the furniture. The landlord and his wife were up very early when Griffin had gone to steal money at clergyman's house. They were surprised to see that scientist's door was opened, and usually it was shut, and Griffin never allowed anybody to enter, and he became angry when anybody entered in his room. They thought that was the good opportunity to investigate. They noticed that the bedclothes were cold. It means Griffin had gone since long. The stranger and his clothes bandages were lying in the room everywhere. All of a sudden, Mrs. Hall heard a sniff. Sniff means the sound of breathing to her ear. A moment later, a hat on the bedpost leapt. It jumped and dashed into the face of Mrs. Hall. It was Griffin who entered in the room after stealing the money, and he saw that Mr. and Mrs. Hall were investigating in his room, so he started throwing the things on their face. Then finally, he took a chair and it was jumping in the air, and finally, with the leg foremost, he threw both husband and wife out of the room. They were in terror, they were afraid. So he slammed the door and locked it after them. So they were sent out of the room with the help of a chair which seemed to be flying in the air. Mrs. Hall almost fell down from the stair in nervousness. She was convinced that the room was haunted with spirits. The stranger had caused some black magic into the furniture. My poor mother used to sit when the chair was jumping on her face. She started crying that her mother used to sit on that chair and Griffin had put some spirits in the chair or furniture. The feeling among the neighbor was that the trouble was caused by witchcraft. There were some black magic type of things, but the witchcraft or not, the news of burglary mean robbery, at the clergyman house became known to everybody. The strange scientist was strong suspect. Everybody doubted him because he might be having the hand. The doubt became stronger when he produced the cash next morning. And last night he had told that he had no money. The village constable was secretly called by Mrs. Hall. Instead of waiting for the constable, she went to the scientist in the morning and he came from the empty room. Mrs. Hall asked, I want to know what you have been doing with my chair upstairs. She wanted to know what he had done with the furniture. I want to know how it is. You come out of an empty room and how you entered a locked room. So Mrs. Hall kept on asking questions on question to Griffin. The scientist was always quick tempered. It means he got angry easily. Now he became furious. You don't understand who or what I am. Very well, I'll show you. Suddenly, he threw off his bandages. When Mrs. Hall kept on asking questions to him, she made him angry and he started removing the bandages, the spectacles, and even nose. It took him a minute to remove the things from his face. The horrified, the afraid people in the bar found themselves looking at the headless man. So, as you can see in this picture, when Griffin started removing his bandages, etc., he became a headless figure. By the time Mr. Jaffer, the constable, arrived, he saw and he was surprised to see that he had to arrest a man without a head. But Jaffer was not easily prevented from doing his duty. He did not he did not take a step back because it was the order of the judge to arrest the man, so he would do it without or with a head. There followed a remarkable scene as the policeman tried to catch the man. He became more and more invisible by throwing off his garment one after the another. Finally, a shirt flew into the air, and the constable found himself struggling with someone he could not see. The constable was trying to catch the man whom he could not see. He could not see him at all. Some men in the bar tried to help him, but found themselves hit by blows. So they were being hit by Griffin because he became invisible. Whosoever was trying to catch him, Griffin was hitting them from nowhere. They could not see him. In the end, Jaffer was knocked unconscious as he made a last attempt to hold the unseen scientist. They all were nervous. There were cries, hold him. People were crying, but whom to hold? The person was not visible. Griffin had shaken himself free, and no one knew where to lay hands on him. So finally, Griffin was able to escape from the inn or the hotel and from the grip of police just by removing his clothes. So, in the chapter, you learned that Griffin was able to escape from everywhere. So, everywhere he was being a nuisance. He was a lawless person. He had attempted robberies. He had hit people. The shopkeeper was hit. Now the people in the inn were hit. So he was being a lawless person. He has used his scientific skills, his knowledge against the humanity. No doubt he was a very brilliant scientist, but he has used his skills and knowledge in illegal manner and against the society. That was his crime. But anyhow he managed to escape from the place. This is the end of the chapter. But we must know that if you have any kind of knowledge, it should be used in the welfare of the people, not against the humanity. So you are supposed to read the chapter thoroughly, and if you face any query you can ask, because